Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're going to start working on a lines drawing, similar to the one that we started at the beginning of the semester, but this one will be a little different, a little more complicated. Let's get started. Here we have the table of offsets for the boat I'm going to be drawing. If you want to follow along and draw the same boat, you will want to copy this in some way or have it available for quick reference because we'll be referring to it fairly often. On the right hand side and on the lower right we have some details for the stem and the stem's distance away from the forward perpendicular line. And on the left hand side we have a couple measurements to help line out the transom. So if you'd like to copy that down, that may be helpful. Okay, here I have my paper. It's 11 by 17. I have some reference lines drawn on it for our beginning and end of the boat. Here's a baseline for the profile view and a center line for our half breadths view. And then up in this corner, we'll do a body plan view. So 11 by 17 is the sheet of paper I'm working with. I drew these perpendicular lines 1.5 inches in from either side. 1.5 inches up from the bottom is where I started my center line for the half breadths view. 3 inches up from that, I have the baseline for my profile view. And then 3 inches up from that, this is where we will draw our body plan. Other items we'll be using is an architect scale. This has 1 inch to the foot markings on it. If you don't have access to one of these at home, you can use a regular ruler. There will just have to be some conversions because this is marked out in inches down here on this tiny scale. When we're drawing to the scale with a regular ruler, it's going to get a little complicated when you get outside of you know, 1/2 inch will be 6 inches in scale, but it will be more difficult to mark out, you know, 3/4 inch in a ruler marked out for 1/8 and 30 seconds. But not impossible. It'll just take a little bit of conversion. So I'll be using this architect scale. We'll also need something to help us draw curves. We can do a little freehand sketching in the beginning, but we'll want to refine these lines. And to do that, I'm going to use some French curves, which come in lots of different shapes. I'm also going to be using a batten or a spline. And this is just a flexible piece of wood that I'll use to draw my long lines for the shear and the water lines. And in class, some of us had used some flexible pieces of plastic. You might be able to find something around the house that can help you draw a fair curve. One thing that you want to look for is something that kind of holds a nice shape when you bend it. If it's too thin or flexible, it might create a wavy line. So that might take some hunting around to find a batten that will spring a nice fair curve. I also have some clamps here to help me hold it while I bend it into position. So you can use that, or you can For some of the curves, you can use round objects found around the house. Say for the shape of the stem, maybe you could use a roll of tape or the bottom of a soda can or something to help draw a nice solid line. So the scale, spline, curves, batten, whatnot. There are other tools out there. These can be helpful and frustrating. But lots of options. Alternatively, if you want to follow around and just sketch your lines, that's okay too. Okay, so the boat that we're going to be drawing is 14 feet long, or I'm going to be drawing. And we're going to mark off station lines at every 2 feet. So that's 2 inches on our page. And I've already done that here, marked off some vertical lines every 2 inches that go through both of our views here. So 2 feet is station 1, this is station 2, station 3, so on. So after we have our perpendicular lines and our center line, baseline drawn, we can start plotting points. So in the beginning I showed a table of offsets. That's going to have the points for this boat. We'll start with the shear and the stem in the profile view, and then we'll move on from there. If you'd like to draw your own, you won't need points. You'll just do a sketch, and that's where things normally start. So here we got the bow. The bow starts on the right-hand side of the page, and what we want to draw into our profile view is a shear line, which is the top edge of the boat, and the stem, which is the forward most structural member, and the keel, which goes right along the bottom of the boat, and a transom on this boat. You don't have to have a transom if you want it to be a double under. But kind of get your sketch down. Alternatively, you can use my points from the table of offsets. Let's go over the way that would work here. So in the table of offsets, the top row here, the top 2 rows are our heights, and that'll be what we incorporate into our profile view. And then we have our half breadths, which we'll work on down here. Let's start with the shear in our profile view. At the stem, 2, 4, 2, so 2 feet, 4 inches, and 2/8 up from our baseline, we'll make a mark. So that's 2 feet, 2 inches, 2 feet, 4 inches, and 2/8. So 2 foot, 4 1/4. We'll make a mark there. That's where the shear starts. Moving back, we'll just do all the shear points real quick. Moving back, we got 2, 0, 6, so 2 foot, 0 inches, and 6/8. Make a point there on our number 1 station line. On number 2 station line, 1 foot, 10 1/8, so 110 1, 183, 176, 176, 186, and 111, 1. So after all those points are plotted, we can spring a line and connect them and establish our, so you can either sketch and connect or spring a batten. If you have some French curves, you can use those. But I'm going to use this batten here. You may need 4 hands. If you have a friend, a brother, sister, somebody that can give you a hand, can make this easier. Okay, once you got the batten lined up, go ahead and connect those dots. And it may be difficult. Maybe there's one point where no matter how you manipulate the batten, it just doesn't want to hit that point. It's possible that point's bad. Maybe maybe I mixed up some numbers on the table of offsets, or you know, maybe the designer just forgot something or miswrote something down. When designing a boat, you'll be moving around these views in kind of a circular fashion. You'll establish a line, transfer it to a different view, and maybe you have to come back and erase and make some adjustments. So if you miss a line or a point, I'm sorry, if you miss a point, it's not the end of the world. Maybe it was just meant to be that way. So here I missed a point. So I'm a little bit higher than my point here with my sprung line, but I'm gonna roll with that. So I have the stem sketched in here. It's a little rough. We'll come back to that. We have some points though that we'll want to connect on the bottom at the keel. In the table of offsets, I have it labeled as the rabbit line. And a rabbit is a groove that follows the length of a piece of wood, and it's right on the edge. So if I was to create a rabbit on this tiny little spline here, I would just be cutting a notch out of the edge all the way down the length of the spline. So if I was to view it from the end, here I'll draw a small picture here. If I was to view it from the end, it would look something like this. I don't know if you can see that. That's a rabbit. It's a little notch that follows along the edge of a piece of wood. And the reason why that's important is the planking of our boat is going to land into a notch that's made along the stem and the keel all the way back. The planking lays into this notch here. And so in the design, we're drawing to the outside of the planking, and so that will be the rabbit line. It'll be in the stem, and the stem connects to the keel, and that's the line we're drawing. So in the table of offsets, it's labeled as the rabbet. Our first point for our rabbet is at station 1. The rabbet will be in the stem, but we'll approach that separately. For now, we'll plot the points for the rabbet at the keel. So the first one at station 1 is 070. So that's a mistake. It's 007. So 007 is our first point. That's 7/8 of an inch. Seven-eighths of an inch up from our baseline, our first point here. At station 2, it's 2/8 of an inch, or 1/4 of an inch. So 002, 00, 000, and then we start coming back up. At station 4, we'll have 002. Station 5 will be 010, so 1 inch from our baseline. And station 6 will be 041, 4 inches and 1/8. And then at the bottom corner of our transom will be 062. The transom will be raked, so 062 will not be on this rearmost line. The transom's going to be coming back, and so 062 is up from the baseline, but it will be forward of this perpendicular line by 0.84. So this point here is 0.84 over and 0.62 up. 0.62 up, 0.84 over. That's the bottom corner of our transom. So now that we have those points, not a whole lot of shape, but we can connect them, and then we will have the rabbet on our keel drawn out. It may be that you can't spring one line and connect all your dots if there is a change in shape. Say it's more of an S curve. You may have to spring multiple lines or use a French curve that has an S curve in it. You might have to connect 2 separate curves together. Potentially take some creativity, some effort. So I'm going to connect these lines here separately. Let's see. Okay, now we'll sketch in our half breadths view of the shear. We'll start 1.5 inches back because our stem in my drawing reverses a little bit and comes away from the forward perpendicular line about 1.5 inches. So we'll start that shear 1.5 inches back from this forward perpendicular line and 3/4 of an inch up from the center line. because our stem is 1.5 inches thick. So half of that is 3/4 of an inch. Written in our table of offsets, that is 0.006. So 0.006 up, 1.5 inches back, which is 0.14. That's the point we'll be starting at. And then station 1 is 0.11, 11 inches. Station 2, 1.74. Station 3, 2.06. 4, 2.20. Station 5, 2.05. Station 6, 1.85. And the transom is 1.32. So once all those points are down, we can connect them. Okay, for each point in our body plan view, it will be 2 separate numbers. So in the body plan view, we have a baseline here at the bottom, which corresponds to this baseline down here. And then we have a center line down the middle, which corresponds to this center line over here. So to get us our station 1 point, we take the shear in the station 1 row and the shear in the half breadths section, and use both of those numbers to come up with 1 point. So the shear in the heights row at station 1 is 2.06. So that's the height above the baseline. We'll go up 2.06. And then the half breadths, the shear at station 1 is 0.11. So we'll make a point at 2.06 up and 0.11 out. So 0.11 out from the center line and 2.06 up from the baseline. That is our station 1 point. Our station 2 point is going to be 0.10, up and 1.74 out. So our station 2 is 1.10 up and 1.74 out. So right here. Station 2. Station 3 would be 1.83 up and 2.06 out. 4 would be 1.76 up and 2.20 out. So just like we did the shear in the profile, using just the heights row, we'll use all of our heights to get half of our points here, and our half breadths will be measured out. So after we plot all these points, we'll do the stem 1, 2, 3, 4 on the right-hand side of this center line, and on the left-hand side we'll do 4, 5, 6, and the transom. So the boat will be viewed from the front on the right-hand side and from the back on the left-hand side. Station 4 will be mirrored on both sides. So after we plot all of those points from the table of offsets, we can connect those with a nice fair curve and see if we're on the right track. Okay, that looks pretty good. And okay, and then our transom is going to be straight to the center. So the transom in this boat will look something like this. We'll make an adjustment later, but for now, it'll look something like that. So our shear is pretty smooth, fair curve on the bow and in the stern view here. If you're sketching your own boat, you can take measurements, since you're not working from a table of offsets. To get this view, you just measure up at each station, and then you plot those points using the vertical measurement here and the half breadths measurement here on station 1. Then you would plot that point there. So if I'm working in that way, I would take a measurement from my baseline at 2, 1, 2. Is that what I had here? 206, pretty close. And then I would measure up in this area, plot that point, and it might have to move when I get the half breadths. So 10-inch half breadths, and then I can mark that point in. So that's how you get these two views combined into the body plan view. These are only the shear points, and so we'll need to add a lot more information into this to get a useful body plan. The body plan is the goal. This is what we're going to use to build the boat. So we'll continue adding more information into these views and into the body plan view to get a full set of plans. But I think we'll leave that for today, and the next video we'll finish up our drawing and maybe get started looking at the boat that we're going to build from this. Okay, everyone, take care. We'll see you next week.